last part of my take on Superman series. In this video I'm going to be talking about some of the miscellaneous, smaller, yet still important aspects of the movie. Superman's costume is a big deal. Some people want to see it changed. I'm more of a traditionalist when it comes to the costumes, so I don't want to see any major changes. The basic design is fine, but there are always some little stylistic tweaks to make it look better when transitioning to live action. The Superman Returns costume was pretty controversial. A lot of people totally hated it. I really think this was a little bit more about their opinion of the movie overall than their dislike of the costume. It did go overboard putting tiny little S's on the main S shield, but that wasn't really noticeable. Speaking of additional S's, I think I'm one of the only people who actually liked the S belt. Maybe the S isn't necessary, but the sleek way it curved really gave it a cool look. The biggest problem with the costume was the color scheme. The idea was that three bright primary colors in one costume would clash, and I kind of agree with that. To solve this issue, they decided to tone down the red and the yellow while keeping the blue bright. The yellow looked fine, but the red ended up looking kind of more like a murky maroonish color. While the red definitely should have been more red, even if it was darker, I find that darkening the blue of the costume actually helps to make the red look better. As someone whose earliest memories of Superman are Superman the Animated Series and Lois and Clark, I've always found the live-action costumes of Superman to be a little bit too light blue for my taste. Maybe they should go darker this time. Not quite Dean Cain's level of dark blue, but somewhere between that and Brandon Routh's. Another problem people had was the S-shield. For one thing, it was too small. I think we all pretty much agreed on that. For another, people didn't take to the stylized look, including that they changed it or messed it up. Once again, I think that people's dislike for the movie and the overall costume made them more inclined to dislike this new Superman Returns S. The issue I take with all this hatred towards the Superman Returns S is that no live-action Superman has ever worn the real Superman S. Although the symbol has changed over the years, this has been the official Superman S symbol for quite some time. Take a look at any of these Supermen. None of them have worn this particular S. So, if you don't like one of the designs, that's fine, but don't criticize it for not being the real S, unless you're willing to admit that about every other version. Anyway, I think it'd be nice to finally have a major Superman wear the true S on screen. Whatever design they choose, the S should be bigger than Brandon Routh, but not too big, aka Alex Ross big. I approve of it being rubbery and a separate material from the rest of the costume, but it should be flatter and feel more like it's a part of the whole thing. One of the issues a lot of people seem to have with the Superman costume in general is the red briefs. They say they look too old-fashioned and a little bit too campy. Personally, I think that Superman's costume, like Spider-Man's, is one of those costumes that works well pretty much as a direct translation. However, there are a decent amount of people who take issue with this look, and I begrudgingly admit that they don't exactly scream cool. So if they were to get rid of the red briefs for this movie, which I don't think should happen, I would want them to keep the color scheme, sort of like a combination of the brief section in these two pictures. I really don't like either of these costumes as a whole, but I do think the idea of making the red part of the design of the regular tights has potential. Finally, I'd like to mention the origin of the costume. I know traditionally Martha Kent made it for him, but I prefer the idea of it coming from Jor-El / the Fortress of Solitude like in Superman the movie. In modern times, a ton of money goes into making these costumes look good. Is it really believable that Martha Kent can sew something that looks as good as something made by Hollywood costume designers? Not really. However, it makes sense if you just say that it came from the Fortress. It can look as good as it should while still being believable and making sense as part of the story. John Williams' Superman theme is the definitive theme for the character. However, it's tied to the Christopher Reeve movies, making it difficult to decide whether or not to keep this theme for the new movie. Just like how they ditched Danny Elfman's iconic Batman theme when making Christopher Nolan's new Batman movies, the filmmakers of this new Superman movie may want to have a new theme to symbolize that this is a new Superman. I believe the Batman theme from the Nolan movies is more about setting a tone than being a character theme the way the Danny Elfman theme was. The new Superman movie may want to follow this idea by having a theme that matches the tone of the movie rather than a theme that's more like, here's Superman. I'm a big fan of the Williams themes, so if they do go with the new theme, I hope that that would be able to capture some of the feel of the classic Superman movie theme. I touched on this back when I talked about not doing a dark, edgy revamp of Superman. The tone has to feel like it's a Superman movie, obviously. There should be some weight to it. After all, Superman is a big deal, but it has to strike a balance between being a fun action movie and kind of an inspirational movie. It should have lessons to it, and people who want to read into it should be able to do so without too much effort, but it shouldn't feel too preachy. It can go dark at times, but it still has to have its light comedic moments. It's not a drama, but the audience should go on sort of an emotional journey with Clark. When he's ticked off at Lex, we should feel some of that anger. When he reaches the end of the movie and he's found his place in the world, we should feel happy for him and be glad that we've seen Superman reintroduced in such a great way. Well, that's it for this video and my take on Superman. Thank you for watching, and if you're one of those people who has watched the entire series, thank you very much. I know that this is kind of dragged out over several months now with some long gaps in between some of the videos. So if you're one of those people who stuck it out with me and were patient, I really appreciate it. And even if you found it later and just watched all of these videos, that's still like over an hour's worth of video combined. So I appreciate you all giving your time to watch this and listen to what I have to say. So if you liked what you saw, please subscribe and tune in next time. I'm done with this series, but I'm not done making videos. There's always something to talk about, so there we go.